Hello and welcome aboard the Kerbal Space Podcast. All things Kerbal, all things space. I'm your host, N9, and
Mark.
Yep, your co-host, Mark. And we have with us none other than EJSA on Twitch. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're known for most on Twitch?
Yeah, breaking Kerbal. Yeah, breaking KSP. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I've seen it many times. So today's episode is about building stuff. It's about what we can expect from maybe the new editor and the different things that we might be able to do in the second game that we aren't able to do in the first one. I'm not sure. Sort of loose like that, but something that I ask every single guest that we have on here, and I plan to, is what is the thing you are most excited for about KSP2? If you had to choose one thing, that is my question for you.
I would say that I'm ready for the optimizations that are going to happen. Supposedly KSP2 has a completely ground up physics rebuild, so. Yeah, I mean, personally, I like breaking the physics engine in KSP. That's fun for me. So it would be really nice to have much more optimized physics simulation so I can break that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll take longer. It'll take
things
longer
more efficiently.
I don't shy away from a challenge, though.
I genuinely hope that they make it challenging to break. Because you've got like YouTube channels and everything popping up about KSP that are just pretty much solely built around breaking the game, or I guess just using its weird intricacies, like the drag cube system. I don't know if that's something that's going to be brought into the new game, but KSP1 does things a little bit weird in those aspects of aerodynamics and buoyancy and part attachments. It's very wacky at times and it's got its charm, but I think that it's due for a new system. I am really excited to see what they come up with.
Time to change,
and
fix all of it. It's very much time for KSP2.
Yeah, I think after a good 10 years that it would be due for a good change. You know what, guys? If it's one thing that I play a lot of that game. It's something that I'm really, my thing with KSP right now is trying to take it and see if you can fake it enough to get it to work like real life. Like some of the vehicles that I've designed in the past were basically to fake things to get them to act like real life vehicles. And I enjoy, quote unquote, breaking the physics in the game to get it to act right. That's actually really fun for me. It's one of my favorite things to do. Do you have any
specific examples of that?
We were working on basically in the latter half of 2021, we were working on building single stage to orbit craft. Yes. And I built a craft that tried to, and I mean, it had some other problems, but that's another story. I built a craft to try and aerodynamically fly like the X-33 and the Venture Star. And what we ended up doing is me and the, chat, we raided NASA's technical resources. And we went in there and raided and found everything we could about the X-33. And then I had people that actually work like with aerodynamics with projects actually come in and make sure that we're making it work as much as we could based off of the subscale testing that NASA did before they actually canceled the program. And we did do it. I built an aero shell for this vehicle that works like a thermal protection system. It's made out of panels, and we use panels to distribute the heat like thermal tiles, amongst other things. And it does distribute the heat correctly, believe it or not. It moves the heat exactly. I built it in such a way to get it to distribute heat exactly like the real model would, like the real thing.
That is
and this
awesome.
is all based off of, yeah, it's crazy. It's all based off of NASA's technical archives, and it worked. It did work. Yeah, no, the thing still works. Flies great. Flies just, I mean, I say it flies great, but the X-33 is pretty much analogous to a flying wedge of cheese, so that doesn't fly very well. But yeah, that was the thing. I intentionally made it fly like the real one, and the real one does not fly very well because it is a block of cheese flying through the air.
Yeah. So it'll have the same sort of inconsistencies through supersonic and subsonic, and probably a little bit of instability, how the real thing would technically have.
Yep. The real one would have slipped out during transonic, and I made it so mine did that.
That is it's something that I will say that I have admired from watching the things that you build on stream, is your relentless attention to those details. It's like something that I really appreciate. And by the way, you all should know at home, if you're unaware of EJ or haven't checked out the streams or seen things done, this is all in stock KSP as well. I don't think you usually play with any mods, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some mods that are piquing my attention right now, but yeah, generally no.
You got some mods that might turn you astray from your old ways?
Not as much as you might think.
I got you. But yeah,
probably more quality of life stuff.
Yeah, those are really nice to have. I'm curious if you don't want to reveal.
I've just seen things that catch my interest. That's all.
I play without mods occasionally, but for the most part, I have just too many. There's just too many.
I mean, I already have like 500 graph files loaded into my engineering save. That lags the game enough.
Yes, I actually took note of that last stream I watched. You opened the craft file and I could not even see the scroll bar. It was there, like the tiniest little line.
Yeah, I mean, I work on iterative designs, and I always make sure I have a redundant design in case I do a change that I don't want. It's not something that you can really do in real life with hardware, but in Kerbal, yeah, you can do as much as you want.
Yeah, you can back up everything.
Yeah, I figured, why waste time trying to undo a mistake and just reload the craft file if you do what you don't like. That in the editor in KSP sometimes doesn't like it when you do certain things, and to be honest, I don't know where that threshold is, so I always back it up just to be sure. And I'm super paranoid about that. You have to when you do 3D art and stuff, which is what I am by trade. But yeah, so I'm kind of always paranoid of like Kerbal suddenly just going, nah, I don't want to do this. Bye.
Yeah, I've run into that as well. Makes me wonder if we can expect that sort of thing out of the new editors. Have you seen? I'm sure you've seen the different pictures and stuff of the new editor, or at least what we've seen from the pre-alpha sort of footage. There's like, I've seen different renditions of it, and I don't know. Are you at all interested in the fact that apparently you can build more than one sort of separate vehicle inside of the vehicle assembly? I'm curious to know what limitations that has, or if there is any.
Well, if I'm remembering right, what you can do in the editor is you can basically load sub-assemblies grayed out, and you can leave them grayed out, and you basically have a workspace in the editor instead of just the craft file that you're working on. So right now, if you're playing Kerbal and you have like a 3-stage rocket and you take the first stage off and you just leave it there and you reload, it's going to be gone. It won't be there anymore. If you just leave it separated and grayed out, the subassembly in the new editor, from what I understand, it'll just stay there. It works more like a workspace. I think that is one of the better features, and I'm actually, that's one of the things that's going to make things a lot easier. For me, like, because of how I play, I always have like a bajillion different things. I'm like, oh, I want to load this, and I want to load this, and I need to load this. That's much more like a 3D workspace than what Kerbal is now. Yeah, I'd really be looking forward to that.
Right. Like that's something you can, like you said, you can do that with the game now. I think a key difference from what we've seen, and I'm going to send this picture over. It's something you've probably seen. But it seems like they've expanded on just having it, I guess, permanently like off to the side, is interacting with the individual parts in a simple way. Which is also actually something you can do in the first Kerbal Space program. You can hold shift, I think, and like take individual parts off of a grayed out assembly in the background.
Yep.
But you won't be able to attach parts to that grayed out assembly. And I think that you might be able to with this new system, and I'm excited for that.
Oh, that would be really nice. Yeah, if you can do that, that would be really good. Like I said, it's much, and this is right from the guys that are working on it. It's much more a workspace than it is just, oh, I need to build this vehicle here. You know, if you're like, how I like playing Kerbal is I like, you know, and this is part of feeding into it as like, you know, teaching Kerbal and teaching about rocket science, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, basic rocket science. I'm no rocket scientist, but you know, being able to visualize stuff and put it out. That's part of the, like, I use Kerbal as a tool. You know, I'm not just pushing the boundaries in Kerbal. I use it as a tool to teach people. So this would be really helpful, showing how stuff goes together. That's really, 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 really cool. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me as well. I think there's a few different other things that I'm also excited about the new editor. One of them is a built-in sort of 2D view of the editor.
Yeah, an isometric view.
Yeah, an isometric view. And there's a mod called Chronal Vessel Viewer that I think does a similar thing. But it's a big difference is, I think with this view, you're still able to interact with the vehicle and everything like normal, as well as seeing it in a 2D fashion. And that's going to be really good, especially for like something that's like so big that you kind of have to move the camera around to see all of it. Like putting it in a 2D space and like zooming out and just boom, it's there. It's like on a whiteboard. It's like on a piece of paper. That's going to be really, really good to visualize things and teach people things as well.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Procedural parts. I think that we're going to see more procedural parts than they've told us. We've got wings, which they teased way early on, completely like draggable section wings and customizable, and they're doing the same thing with radiators. And although Nate Simpson has said on the forums that we're not going to see procedural solar panels directly come from them, I understand why, because from a gameplay balance sort of view, they're wanting to push towards like the higher tech sort of electric charge generator things. But I think that procedural solar panels will probably come from mods early on, to be honest with you. But those procedural mods is something that I'm extremely, extremely interested in, as I play with a lot of mods that you have procedural tanks as well, that you can customize the tanks to whatever size, whatever amount of fuel that you need, to the exact like number. And if it's already built into the game with this sort of procedural like things we've seen in different images and videos, I can only imagine that that'll be a great framework for modders to be able to make procedural pretty much anything. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be really useful. I'm really curious as to how the procedural parts are going to calculate aero, because so and this is another thing about, you know, fooling Kerbal into working like real life. I usually make segmented wings. I make the wings out of a bunch of different small parts. I sculpt out the wing with a bunch of small wings. And it's not going to give you, it's not like that you have to do this way. Trust me, I try to push the boundaries with the game because that's fun. That's what I enjoy. But sculpting it out of multiple wings gives more points to sample for the wing, and more points to sample for the wing makes the wing work more like a wing. So I'm interested, you know, if people are just going to be throwing together like these crafts with just these gigantic freaking wings on them, like how is the arrow going to work? I mean, is it just it's just a big wing and then it's taking 1 point of sample off of it for the aerodynamics? Like, yeah, I mean, I like the procedural wings, and you know, I could just take procedural wings and make them into the sculpted parts that I'm looking for. I'm wondering what the arrow is going to be like, because we haven't really seen much with that, you know?
We really haven't. And that's something that I am really sort of anticipating word about. Like, I'm just hoping the next dev blog is something to do with aerodynamics. I can see it coming, but I don't know. The system that they have with the current game is really unique with aerodynamics, wherein if a part doesn't have like an aerodynamic module in the actual like part file, it won't provide lift. It'll provide drag, but it won't provide lift necessarily. Whereas the wing parts designed specifically for that are what produce lift. Yep. And well, that's just, you know, simply not true. If you throw a brick fast enough, it'll provide a little bit of lift. But I'm curious to see if it's like per individual part based off of that, or if the new game sort of calculates the whole vexel like sort of a voxel system instead of a drag cube system. And I don't know if they'd be able to make that very performant or not, because we do have mods like that for Kerbal Space Program, i.e. Ferrum Aerospace Research, which does that very thing. There's things about that which are can cause some performance issues and some oddities with it. I use it all the time, and just there's a lot of oddities with it. But I really want to know what they're gonna do. I don't think they've told us anything about Aero yet.
No, we haven't. I've noticed that it's been a lot of outer, like, solar systems and stuff. Like, oh, you can go between two solar systems. Well, don't get me wrong, I'm hyped up about that. But yeah, I really want to see a lot more core features. But hey, I know, you know, like you know, video game company, you deploy the right content at the right time. Like, yeah. I get that. I understand. I'm not by any means being like, oh, where's my game? This is ridiculous. I hate people like that. It's just, you deploy you tell people about it when people need to be told about it. I mean, I get that. I understand. But also, I really want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, if you were gonna say something, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that they're gonna rope in the main content first. I mean, more people are gonna be interested in interstellar and orbital stuff than the aeronautics. I personally am very interested in aeronautics, and I want to see planes. I build cursed planes in Kerbal Space Program all the time, so it'd be interesting to see a devlog about that soon.
It would be. I guess now is a good time because I neglected to mention it last episode. Everyone's aware of it, but KSP2 got quote unquote delayed again. Although I see it more specifically as we finally have like it's narrowed down. It's more narrowed down than it ever has been, like release sort of area. It's not a date yet, but early 2023 is what was told to us, and they've never like told us in this format like when they think the game is coming out. Sure, the trailer said litho breaking in 2020. Now it has been, and they've had other updates on like, okay, it's fiscal year 2021 or 2022, but they've never had this sort of like it was just a video with Nate Simpson telling us, yeah, okay, timing updates. I can finally answer this question. It's going to be early 2023. Something about that feels final to me, and I think that I can pretty much bet on it coming early 2023. And
it's a confident goal.
It seems like tangible almost. And I can only imagine that as we get closer to the end of the year here, that we might see sort of like cooler things like finally like teased to us, or we might see a ramp up in like news about it. We might see a new trailer, knowing on how games like to do this. I have absolutely no idea. This is just speculation. I'm just excited. I'm just an excited guy. I haven't heard information on this.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
I think we're up for a few gears shifting upwards on the hype train as we get closer to the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, if we start seeing more we will. We'll start seeing more content towards the end, or at least I think we will. I'm not sure. If we do, yeah, then it's a pretty good indicator that 2023 date is pretty serious. But yeah, it's good to have it concrete. I mean, it gets done when it gets done.
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
like I'm going to get bored of Kerbal anytime soon. So for me, just whenever they're ready,
Yeah, it's sort of like a two-edged sword for me, because I have goals in various Kerbal Space Program things that are pretty complicated and are going to take a long time. And on one hand, I want to finish it before Kerbal Space Program 2 comes around. And on the other hand, I want Kerbal Space Program 2. So I'm sweating here.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of like goals that you're working towards in the first game?
I ideally want to get everywhere in the solar system. That's the only real thing that I have left to do, believe it or not. I've been to all the planets off stream. Like, I want to do it in my, syndicated save that I have going. But engineering on stream does take time. But, I'd like to, get to every planet and back, run missions to every single planet and kind of go from there. And I think that'll put a nice bow on Kerbal before we send it off and get into KSP2.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly.
Yep.
I'd be sweating too with that goal. I sort of have a similar thing where I'm playing with a whole bunch of mods, and it's the real solar system, and I'm intending in a career mode to plant a flag on every celestial body possible with mods that make it as real as possible. And it takes time. It takes time. So I haven't been sad about the KSP2 delays, to be honest. I've just been busy.
And no, I mean, KSP2 being delayed is a good thing. It means we're going to have less bugs on release. It's less stressful for the devs. They're not going to be burnt out and making content we saw what happened to Cyberpunk. I mean, you bought Cyberpunk. It wasn't that bad, but it could have been a lot better had the devs had a little bit more time to iron things out.
I honestly have no problems with Cyberpunk. I did play it. I played it on stream. Never had a problem with it. It's a good game. I'll say that. I said it once. I'll say it again. It's a good game. I enjoyed it. Guys, I played that game. I didn't break it once.
You didn't break it once?
There's like some physics glitches in there because I like driving cars over things and, the suspension freaked out. But I never had any problems with the game. I played through a good deal of the storyline, and I did a lot of the side quests. I like the game. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was anything too special, but it was a good game. I get a lot of crap for that. I never had a problem with this game. Everybody's like, oh my God, it sucks. It's so bad. Like me, myself, never had an issue. I enjoyed the heck out of that game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed shooting people in the face with some crazy cyber gun or whatever. And the cars in the game are cool. And the car physics isn't the best. Like GTA arguably had better car physics, but this is still a good game. It's like, I would say it's not anything revolutionary. I think that's where people got all pissed off about, but it is still a good game. If they didn't hype it up and they just released this game like, oh, this is our new game, not this is the future, this is going to change everything, I think people would have liked it a lot more than they do. I think it's a fun game. I enjoyed it. I never really had some crazy glitch with it or anything like that. Other than like some teething problems here and there, like every game has, or just suspension physics because it's really hard to get suspension right. But
I think KSP2 has been very cautious to hype, but keep it within the realms of what they can do, because they've showed us that they can do the things that they're talking about. They've showed us that they can do the orbital assemblies and the colonies and the interplanetary stuff. Even KSP1 was capable of doing all that stuff. Just took a little bit of skirting around the edge and browsing through the folders and files and changing stuff and modding it. But I mean, it's capable. It's not like they're advertising it as like a completely revolutionary game that's going to change the whole scape of gaming, like Cyberpunk did. I'm just a little bit salty about that. Cyberpunk isn't a bad game at all. I agree with what EJ said about it.
Oh yeah,
but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was like, it's good, you know, like, I'm not trying to say that Fallout games are bad, but it was on par with Fallout. I enjoyed it like I enjoyed Fallout. I played the trash out of it. I did all the side quests. Like, when you stream, you know, what I try to do is I try to play part of streaming, like part of having a stick. Part of streaming is having like a stick. And when I played Cyberpunk, I just did all the side quests. And we really put the free roam gameplay to the test, and it passed. It did just fine. I don't understand. Fallout's more glitchy than Cyberpunk. I'll say it right now. Very strange.
Yeah, I genuinely had pretty much the same experience with Cyberpunk as you. I never had any game-breaking glitches apart from traffic driving through each other and exploding and then people walking away from it like nothing happened. But that's just what you expect from open world games like that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of the few games that I did pre-order, and I will say I have not regretted that since. I don't remember any sort of what I got from pre-ordering it. I just did it because I was hyped. But yeah, like a lot of people were on this train where it was going to be like revolutionary, like you said, and it was just a good game. It wasn't like I don't know. It's not like it doesn't make a huge splash, I guess, in like new things in the game industry, other than they did really well on making it a mostly like loading screen free experience, which I just got wrapped up in. It was very enjoyable. I agree.
Yeah, fun game, dude.
Absolutely. All right, derailing that for a second, because there was something that I wanted to talk about that related to pushing the boundaries of the first game, or like trying to break the game, but like work around it. So there's something that you were talking about on stream, and I think it's something that like it's a term that you have created for it, but hybrid tech. Could you give us a crash course on what that is in the game? It's like working with the weird things that Kerbal Space Program 1 is to do just the crazy engineering things that you do in the game. I want a crash course on it. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so you got to rewind back to like 2016, 2017. Okay. Kerbal. So we're going back like 5 years now. So 5 years ago, there's no robotics in KSP. So like making remote manipulator systems was completely out of the question. I mean, we tried. It kind of worked. It was okay.
Wasn't like two separate parts for like a hinge or something, right? Or to craft, entirely.
So yeah, how you had to make a hinge was you had to make the socket part of one craft, and you had to make the hinge part of another craft, and then you had to undock them. And then wherever you wanted the hinge to move, you had to use an air brake to get it to move after undock in the right direction. And then when it was in the position that you wanted, you had to put another docking port there and have it dock to something.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the times when we made hinges, we ended up using physics-less parts like RCS, thermometers, spectrometers to make all different types of hinges. We made hinges for launch pads. We made landing legs for a Falcon 9 style craft. We made remote manipulator systems using ball joints and stuff. It got pretty insane. And then when they put robotics in the game, most of the hinges that we ended up using were physics-less, and we, at the time, I didn't know it. You couldn't make. They added a gameplay feature into the game, actually, because funny story there. They added a gameplay feature in the game that I said couldn't be done, and I ended up eating my words on this one, which was kind of funny. I told the lead developer at the time, JPL Repo, that I'm like, no, you can't make two parts on the same craft interact. That's going to break the gameplay's physics. And then they literally rewrote the code to spite me.
Yep. They're like, I'll show him.
Yeah.
And now it's toggleable on every part.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. So, I mean, I'll take the L on that, fine, because we get, you can build crazy stuff now. Yeah. But I noticed that when they added that same vessel collision feature, they didn't do it for physicsless parts because they're physicsless, right? I get it. Physicsless parts are parts in KSP that are too small to want to calculate the physics or aero for. So what they do is whatever part you attach them to, they take the part's aero and physical properties and they apply it to that part and they run the simulation off of that part. They do it for like RCS, thermometers, barometers, all the science parts in the game. There's no point in calculating aero off that. So they did it for optimization, right? Mm-hmm. So physicsless parts are in fact physicsless. Don't get me wrong. They'll still collide. They'll still blow up. They'll still hit the ground just like everything else. They can break just like everything else. But when the vessel's working as one thing, they're imparted onto their parent part, the part that they're attached to. So I was like, okay, I can't use Kraken Tech anymore because of the robotics. So I started using just the robotics, and I noticed that the robotics in game, they drift around over time. They fatigue like metal. And if you have load being put on a hinge, like a hydraulic or something, like if a hydraulic in the scene is holding up like 200 tons or something, and then you leave the scene and then you come back, it'll load the part's position when it was under load, when physics reload, so it'll double load the part, so the part will eventually just bend and bend and bend and bend over time.
Yeah, it'll shift.
Exactly. So I've tried all kinds of stuff, struts, whatever, to try and get them to not move around. The devs even did a patch for Kerbal a little while back that does mitigate it, that does help. It absolutely helps. But I was screwing around with the editor one day, and I noticed that if you go into action groups on physicsless parts, you have an option to enable same vessel collision on them and basically place them wherever. So really? Now with hybrid tech, if I want to make a super freaking strong hinge, I make it out of robotics just like you normally would, but I build a hinge right in to the robotic, i.e. just like the old Kraken tech from back in the day. One part is ahead of the hinge and the other part is behind it. The socket is behind it, attached to the vehicle, and then ahead of the hinge in the hierarchy, so if you're making like a landing leg, I have the hinge and then I have the pivots for the hinge attached to the landing leg, and then I have the sockets for that hinge attached to the part that the robotic is attached to. And then, you trigger the action group when you put the thing out on the runway or whenever, and it stays like that. And because for whatever reason, when you have physicsless parts collide with each other, or when you enable same vessel collision on physicsless parts, they don't drift. The reason why they don't drift is because they're physicsless. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but the physicsless parts make them so they don't move around. So you can make hinges that are infinitely strong, just as strong as the hinges that we made 2016, 2017, that use robotics and are very easy to move around and articulate because you have the robotics. The old hinges, you had to undock them and you weren't in control and you had to move them with an air brake. It was a big pain in the butt. Now I could just control everything as one vehicle and have hinges that are just as strong as the hinges that we made back in the day. And they don't drift around. Yeah. But I've been doing all kinds of crazy stuff with this thing. I made a synchronizer. So I have a helicopter that has two rotors on it, right?
Yeah.
And I made it so the rotors are all in sync and it's all driven off one helicopter engine, just like a real helicopter. It has two engines on it. You could shut one down, and I used RCS to make gears to make the two blades synchronized. So we made a synchronization gear, and now I can run my helicopter off one engine. I have one engine turning two blades, and the blades are always synchronized. Yeah, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. The other day, I had a rocket that we're working on, a new rocket for my new mission architecture, and I put the first stage on it, and I held it up with 4 RCS balls that had the same vessel collision on them, right? And we fully fueled the rocket. 4 RCS balls held up 260 tons in game, no problem. Didn't even flinch. So, I mean, this stuff that has huge potential to be able to, like I said, bring real life concepts into Kerbal, because, you know, in real life, hinges do fatigue, parts do fatigue over time. Stuff's made out of metal bends. It happens.
Yeah.
But you can make stuff last a lot longer with this hybrid tech stuff. It's I'm really kind of hoping I can really push Kerbal to the next level with it.
I mean, it sounds like you are. It's kind of an ingenious sort of workaround. You've got parts that don't have physics until they have same vessel interaction, but still don't have the kind of physics that would drift on load, and yet they still will keep the parts that would drift in place because of how they're connected. That is just a fascinating, intricate thing you cannot explain to someone who's just joining the game.
No. Yeah, my builds, the stuff that we mess with nowadays is well beyond like run of the mill Kerbal gameplay, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm sure people come into the stream all the time and be like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" All right, I'm leaving. You know.
Okay, EJ, so do you have any like old videos that might help people like potentially build these weird mechanisms and figure out how to do the kind of stuff that you do?
Well, what I've been trying to do, and this is just on my list of things to do, that's a never-ending list, and it always changes, etc. On my list of things to do is make videos about this. I want to try to make some videos about the like advanced Kerbal building techniques and put them up on YouTube or something. So I don't have to sit there and explain this 90 times a day. And don't get me wrong, like I don't mind doing that. That drives chat engagement. That's good for the stream. And you know, I can't get impatient when I'm doing something really stupid in game and I get questions about it. I don't see that as a bad thing. Like you want to keep repeating yourself, and because that, you know, you never know when someone just clicked on the stream, and maybe because somebody else asked, they clicked on the stream and you explain it, and then the person's like, "Oh man, this is excellent. I want to keep watching this guy. He kind of seems like he knows what he's doing." Seems like operative word.
Yeah,
you know, so that's I don't mind repeating myself 90 times a day, but like I'll probably still end up doing it. But you know, if I had these videos, it'd be better for visualization. Be like, "Oh yeah, this is what it does. I have a video on it. Here, go check this out." You know, if they go, they go. If they don't, whatever. It's all right.
Yeah, like I was even gonna say, if you're listening to it and want to know more, if you jump in EJ stream, he will repeat it as many times as someone asks, because it's just like that. It'll teach you how to do it. Or at least it'll show you how he does it. And it's just a fascinating thing to observe and to figure out. It's just such an intricate part of KSP1. I wonder how it will translate to KSP2. I'm sure we'll all find ways of breaking the game and working around it. But
of course,
I think it'll be
every
harder.
game I play, man.
Except Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We got the traffic to do some weird stuff in that game, but I'm talking about like
that's just the game breaking
doing
itself.
The side missions. Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, it's same kind of stupid stuff that happens in Fallout, same kind of stupid stuff that happens in KSP, where it's not so much like a glitch in the game; it's me abusing the game's physics.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just something that I'm sure we're all looking forward to.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do you have any, I don't know, like plans with or ideas, I should say, with the fact that we are going to get our hands on an orbital assembly building? Not, well, I guess it's not a building. I keep saying building because I saw in a picture somewhere it said OAB instead of VAB. But we've definitely seen things about it, and I think interstellar vehicles are just going to have to be built in orbit like that. But like, I'm always thinking, okay, what are the limitations of that? Something completely not related to building. Do you think they're going to keep the 2.3 kilometer physics range sort of thing that Kerbal Space Program has, one like a bubble around like parts that load in?
Kerbal has two render layers when you get near things. 2.4 kilometers or 2,400 meters is visual. So that's render range. So that's you being able to physically see it.
Okay,
Kerbal only really starts simulating. So like, the thing working and being simulated in physics when you get within 200 meters. I think the 2.4 visualize thing. Yeah, there's plenty. Yeah, you could make that. You could make that a lot further. I know you can make that a lot further because, like I said, it's not physically simulated. But if you're 250 kilometers over KSC orbiting the planet, you look down, you can still see KSC. That doesn't screw up the game. So I think they'll go higher with the render range, but I'm not sure about the physics range. I wouldn't do that. That would really choke somebody's computer if you're not careful. And that's the balance of KSP. You have to find a way to make it realistic enough. And this is why drag cubes are in there in the first place. You have to find a way to make it realistic enough, but also if we wanted real-time like computational fluid dynamics simulation, that would give us a great high fidelity simulation. It would work exactly like real life. But you'd hit spacebar and the thing would be in orbit about a week later.
Yep.
So it's always a balancing act like that,
Yeah. And I think that's sort of a core of Kerbal Space Program is that balancing act. Because I don't think its first inception it ever intended to be like as real as possible to the tiny nitty gritty of simulations like back 10 years ago of real life. It was meant to simulate it in a way that was possible, I guess, as you say. But yeah, I don't really know. I think I'm just sort of in a state of just I'm not sure what we're going to be able to do until we get our hands on it. Even the stuff that they have told me, like going to other planets and building off-world and building a new Kerbal Space Center on different planets and stuff. Like I feel like I'm going to be lost just flying an airplane around the new Kerbin for a long time. And it's just I'm just so excited to do just that. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, something I wrote down here because it was something I forgot to talk about in the second episode and something I completely forgot about the third episode. I might be kind of related to how physics range works, but absolutely not because words are hard. So there's going to be more stars than just one and more planets orbiting those stars. That is something we can just expect out of the game. And I can't help but wonder if these stars are going to be static in space. I don't think so. Or if all of the stars are going to be orbiting around something else. And that's just something that, along with aerodynamics, along with news about multiplayer, we have heard absolutely nothing about, other than the fact that they exist and what some of the new planets look like, the different stars that we might expect in the game. And I suspect it's because it's not, either they're holding on to that information because it's some of the juicy one, or it's because things are a little bit like they haven't fully decided on something yet. But I'm just curious how that's going to work. I don't know if you like zoom out on the map, are the other stars going to have orbital lines and it's all going around some like black hole like I think Lynx wanted in the game, or what? I'm just excited to see things about it. This is one of the things that we haven't seen anything about, and I'm just dying to know any tiny bit of information about.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I guess I don't know as much about like orbital mechanics on a stellar level like that to really know if like they should move or not. Maybe I don't know.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if
I don't know, like, is that gonna croak somebody's computer? Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I mean, if certainly if they're moving, it's gonna be tougher to get to them. But yeah, I don't know.
Like interstellar planning and stuff, all they've mentioned is that like they have a system that works and it should be simple for people to figure out, but we haven't seen it. We haven't seen the sort of Brachistochrone trajectories like actually like plotted out as they've told us that we can do. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I'm excited for that because even on a small scale, that's really exciting. It means you can put like the tiniest like little efficient engine and have it burn for like 2 hours to get to the mun, and you can just time warp through it, and it's calculating the physics for it. That's just so nice. I want to take. You
got to remember that time warping like that, it like fast forwarding, so like fizz warping like that, it will screw with the simulation. The simulation won't be as accurate because it won't be accurate in the same way that if you, like, I might date myself with this, if you hit like fast forward on something and you do have the audio and it's like like you're not going to understand it. The game doesn't say that. You try to fast forward a physics simulation like that, it's going to start dropping physics frames. And doing a precise orbit like with a long burn like that, you need to be really precise because it's a really long burn. You don't get the burn right, like with an ion thruster or something, you'll keep orbiting, you'll miss the moon entirely. So like you got to be like, that is something that they're really going to have to work on, because if you time warp like that, you're going to have to do some kind of approximation to make up for the fact that, if the game wants to, you're going to simulate something with like 100 parts, that'll be fine just at 1 time speed in real time, no problem. 2 times speed, now you're doubling the speed of the simulation with that same 100 parts. So if you ever fizz warp something in KSP and it starts doing all wacky things like parts fly everywhere and stuff. That's the physics simulation dropping frames because it can't keep up with that speed. If I'm recalling correctly, that's something the developers didn't even want to put in the game because they knew it would do that, and it's something that the community wanted, so they put it in because of that. That's why the Kerbal has 2 different types of time warp. You have fizz warp and then you have time warp. 2 different things. So, I mean, I'd be really curious to see how they implemented that, because that's going to be that's going to be a hard thing to kind of overcome, because the computer will just start trying to count the frames so fast, it'll just be like, all right, screw that. We don't need those frames. All right, next frame. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 22, 23, 24. That's something that's going to be really hard to, I mean, once again, I said that same vessel collision on same vehicles was tough. I've learned not to challenge software engineers.
Developers know what to do.
They'll proverbially slap me across the face. So maybe it is, but I know that'd be a tough thing to get right.
Yeah, I think it's something that is it's part of the charm of Kerbal Space Program. They didn't always have propellers, but propellers are a notorious thing that will just be the wackiest thing under even 2 times fizz warp. You start them up, you hit like alt and then times one time, and now your propellers are 10 feet away from the vehicle, like spinning on their own in like a 4 pattern, but it's still somehow working. But it's because it's skipping frames. And now don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that the developers, the guys that are working at Intercept, can't figure that out. I've talked to those guys before. They're very smart. They will get it done. I know they will. It's just that's going to be a tough one. I'm pretty sure. And Intercept guys, if you ever hear this, if you want to tell me I'm wrong, please do. Yes,
I would be happy to be proven wrong. Please do it.
Probably actually more than I do about how that all works. And if any developers ever hear this, like, we really appreciate the work that you're doing to making this. It's work. All right,
and for a good cause.
Oh, sorry, what was it?
I said, and for a good cause.
And for a good cause, yeah.
Getting people interested in aeronautics and aerospace, it's a good cause.
Yeah.
Exactly. And speaking of aerospace, we've got a couple of real-life things that's been happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had Starliner OF2, that mission. They stayed at the International Space Station for a few days. I don't remember the number, but they returned. It was a week. Okay. They returned 5 safe days, and sound. They did. What was it? Ground landing, right? They didn't splash down.
No, Starliner has airbags on it. It's designed to land on the ground. Yeah, it jettisons the heat shield, and when the heat shield jettisons, it pulls some airbags open, and they inflate, kind of like those quick inflatable like dinghy rafts. It's just a bunch of those.
Okay, that's I'd be interested to know what the G load of that final touchdown is. Do you know by offhand?
It's comparable to anything else that's flying. It's not that much of an impact. I mean, you're using a pneumatic shock. It'll be fine. The airbags dampen out the ground hit. Yeah, it should be fine. I mean, and I say it should be fine. Like, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure NASA wouldn't allow that thing to fly if it wasn't, like that's one thing that I've learned, about learning about spaceflight is that, like people, they got Starliner up to the space station, for instance, right? And it was great. And I always had questions, like, we watched the whole thing, we watched it dock and everything is good. And I would get questions from people that are like, oh, what if it blew up right now? And most of the time, those are probably troll questions. Like, I get it. But, just in case one of those questions is a real question, I always try to answer it honestly. Like, I said this, I'm like, look, NASA wouldn't let it get near the space station if there was any threat of that. You can't roll the dice like that in space. It's like, space flight is very difficult from what I understand. People have told me, and I've repeated this on stream multiple times, that it's like a game of Tetris. You really don't win Tetris. You just get better at it. You just get better at it every time. You never win. Spaceflight is like that. It's difficult. You're never gonna win. You get small victories, right? Like, if you line up all the pieces and you get the 4x1 block and you hit it vertically, and or the 5x1 block, you knock out 5 lines, right? That's like a small victory. That's like a mission complete, right? But you're never gonna win, right? You never, if we go to colonize the moon, those same perils are still going to be there in 100 years as they are now. Like, it doesn't get easier, Yeah. I mean, it gets easier by doing it, but the dangers are still there, just like the ocean. Like, ships still sink all the time. That happens.
There's never 100% chance of certainty of success. There will always be any sort of anomaly. You can't predict everything.
Yep,
that's why
called unknown unknowns. That absolutely happens.
This is why, like, space flight is, I think, at times sort of missed by the general public. Like, there's lots of like exciting new news and stuff, but everything takes a lot of time. Once they're up there, it's they'll say things like, now we're going like 2,400 miles per hour above the Earth. But the thing is, like, it's very relatively like a slow and intricate and deliberate process that I couldn't see it like thrown up on a bar and everyone like, huddling around the TV, unless it was like a huge thing, like, say, some of the first shuttle landings, some of like the first mission to the moon. I think even on the second one and like on Apollo 12 and Apollo 14, like, even they started like losing publicity, I guess, for it. Like, people just weren't interested. Like the first one, that's interesting, but the second one, well, we've been there. Why? Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that don't necessarily have that interest, and I think that I think maybe the devs are hopeful in this too, that they can create a program, a simulation, this game, it might inspire more people to be like interested. Like, if they know what's going on, they like know that what's at stake and what's really up there. It's a really, really, I think, important thing that they're doing. I'm really excited to see it come to fruition. That's why I'm excited every time they upload anything about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's great.
I think part of the reason why people started losing interest after Apollo 11 was because they're used to thinking that you do something once and then it's instantly 10 times easier. They don't realize those unknown unknowns and the slim, there's always a chance of failure, and I don't think people have like a sense of scale of that, and they don't realize how really helpless you would be in that situation.
I mean, people harp on me for this, but part of the reason why I spend like the SSTO that I was talking to you about, I spent 6 months developing that, like 40 hours a week, just like any job. I built it up like from the ground up, like, every single system. I meticulously built every single thing, and I still do that. I'm doing that with the spaceships that I'm building now.
Two sizes of them too.
Yeah, exactly. That was a hard thing to do. Yeah, no, that was really difficult. But that's what I like to show people. I like to show people that this is really complicated stuff. Everyone says space is hard, but nobody ever says why. Nobody can ever give a concrete example as to why it's hard. I'd like to think that the intricacies that I show, with these syndicated series, like, showing what it takes to, say, oh, I want to build this spacecraft and I want to build this pad for it and I want it to do this, right? How difficult that actually freaking is. And, don't get me wrong, Kerbal is nowhere near an analog to real life. I've had people that work in the industry say that Kerbal is probably about 1,000-fold easier, like easily 1,000-fold. It's way, way easier.
Right.
And Kerbal is still difficult. Even for what I'm doing with pushing the envelope, it's still tough. Like, I can only imagine how difficult this stuff is to do in real life. Like, I can get a good factor of scale there. Like, stuff's hard, man. There's a lot of things that need to go right.
Yeah, a huge example, night and day, of Kerbal Space Program versus real life. A space capsule. All right, you slap one part, you're done. Real life, you've got massive amounts of work in construction, engineering, the science that goes into like testing the whole, just loads of infrastructure that are nationwide, worldwide. Sometimes go into just the development of that one single part that you can just plop on.
Yep.
But of course, they're never going to simulate all of that in Kerbal Space Program too. The idea is exactly. I wouldn't be bored at hell. I would absolutely eat that up. But majority of people would.
But the whole point is to get people involved in space flight, not show people, oh, look, it's going to take you a year to make this.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, oh, you like pizza? Come work at us, and then they just stick you on a mop in the back room for 20 years or something.
Yeah, you sound like you have a lot of experience.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I deliver pizzas too.
Yeah, I actually remember that. That's my gig right now. It's making pizzas, delivering pizzas, and playing Kerbal Space Program. We're trying to do more of the latter. Yeah. It's a fun process.
Making pizza is fun. It's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy that too. I did a lot of culinary stuff. Like, believe it or not, like worked in restaurants. I've done everything that it takes to run a pizzeria. I mopped the floors, delivered pizzas, did all the morning prep, which I'm sure you know about.
I work mornings, so yeah.
Yeah, you do the morning prep. You deal with rushes. With Halloween, which for whatever reason is the busiest time for a pizzeria, the busiest day at them.
It still is. I
don't know what that's. I mean, I know what that's about. Nobody wants to cook dinner on Halloween. That makes sense. Yeah, dude, I've done all of it. I've like even before that, I've waited tables. Like, I've done everything with that. I can cook. I still do it. I enjoy it.
Dude, cooking is
didn't like it at the time.
Fun. Cooking is so fun.
Time.
Yeah,
it's engineering, but with food.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's engineering you can taste.
Yes.
Hey, speaking of, you wanna ask the question that you asked every guest so far?
Oh yeah. All right. Yeah. Shoot. Every guest so far, I've never forgot.
No, never forgot that one time.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So you like food, I assume, EJ?
No, I never eat.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you like pies?
Swear if the next question is cake or pie, I'm gonna slap you.
No.
I genuinely, it's not. Like yeah.
What is your favorite type of pie?
Apple.
That's a classic. You can't.
There's nothing like
That's
warm
good.
apple pie with vanilla ice cream on it.
Right.
Oh man.
You could say you like something else, but you'd be wrong. Like, it's fine.
I mean,
Someone has to be wrong.
That's a staple. You can't.
Good apple pie with cinnamon on it and vanilla ice cream. It's delicious.
Good choice.
Oh
I
man,
eat
I
that
can
every day.
like taste it already.
It's like I know that's vanilla ice cream. I know that's vanilla as heck. Like, but that's what I like. I mean, banana cream is pretty good too. Like that banana cream pie. Good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you say that's vanilla type. My choice has still got to be just a classic pumpkin pie with too much Cool Whip on it.
There you go. Yeah, that's tasty.
That's a good. I haven't had too many pies. Like, I think a goal in my life is to have more pies so I can be more interesting with my answer to that question. But it's just you can't go wrong, you know.
No, pumpkin pie is good. Absolutely.
No, pumpkin and apple are absolute staples. You can't get rid of them. They're just very likable.
I mean, also, does this count? Like, does pudding pie count? Does that count? Pudding pie is legit.
It's in the name.
Yeah.
Can't say I've had a pudding
crust?
pie. Is it just pudding in the pie crust?
You just take pre-made pie crust. You put pudding in it. You put whipped cream on top of that, and
That works.
It's literally just pudding in an edible bowl. But whatever. Who cares? It's pie. Sure, why not?
No one will judge you for eating that.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like,
No,
"Yo, can I have some?"
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
chocolate mousse pie is essentially a pudding pie.
Yeah. There you go.
I have one of those in my fridge right now.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's gonna happen later.
French silk. Oh, that's so good.
All right, stop making me hungry. Stop making. Let's go back to space news. We said one thing. We ended up at pies.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I need to talk about this. You know how much I love James Webb.
Okay, yeah, you can. Yeah,
But we finally got the date. The date for the first full color images. It's July 12th. Set it on your calendars. Get ready on Twitter. NASA's gonna go ham. They set out the tables. They say, "Hey, we got a date. You guys need to come." So I'm so excited.
you don't want to turn that date down.
Exactly. I've set the table. I've set out the wine. We're ready.
Do we know any information about that though? Because I regrettably don't, unless they haven't told us like what they were imaging.
I don't know what they're looking for.
Well,
No.
let's see.
Well, how about you look that up and we'll go to something I also regrettably don't know anything about, but I just have a feeling that you do, EJ. So
Okay.
like this week or last week, what's the latest news on Starbase and Starship? Because I have a feeling that you might know. I thought they were stacking like ship 24 or something like that, or I don't remember
said
if
they're
there was
gonna
anything.
stack soon. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't have any insider information on this.
Oh yeah, that's not what I mean.
I like to work with information presented. So with that being said, I could be, because I don't have that. No, I know I'm not gonna say anything like that. The reason why I said that is because like I could be wrong. I don't know. This is my guess. So it could be wrong, could be right. I don't know. I guess time will tell. So from what I could, we watch Starship footage every day. NASA Space Flight is nice enough to let me review all their footage on stream, all of it, like on what's going on, and they have day-to-day update videos from Boca Chica. So what I've noticed is that SpaceX keeps tanking up their orbital launch pad with methane and oxygen. You don't tank an orbital launch pad with methane and oxygen and not intend to fire your methane and oxygen rocket engines, right?
Usually,
if it was going to be testing,
yeah.
If it was going to be testing, you don't test with that. You test with nitrogen for cryoproofing, right? And that's what SpaceX has done. So I see them loading up all these propellant commodities, and I'm thinking, we're gearing up to either some kind of static fire, and if we're gearing up for a static fire, that means we're going to gear up for a flight sometime soon. I'd say sometime in the summer for Starship to get into space. I mean, once again, that might be a bold statement, but I'm taking a guess. But with the information presented, from what I've seen, I would guess sometime in July for a launch.
Ooh.
I think the
Right
programmatic
around the corner.
assessment, which, yeah, exactly. The programmatic environmental assessment from the FAA is it was supposed to be done on the 31st of May. They moved it to the 13th of June, which is a week away from when we're recording this right now.
Yeah.
And I think they wouldn't delay it by 2 weeks because they've been delaying it by a month. And I think the FAAPEA is going to go through and be approved on the 13th. And when it does, that's open season. That and propellant loading with SpaceX. I mean, I think we're going to see an orbital flight here sooner rather than later.
Oh, definitely.
That fills me
awesome.
with excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask you a question related to this because I think I asked this to previous guests as well.
Okay.
What side of the coin are you on? Are you for this question on what do you think we'll see in its launch first, and that is Orbital Starship or Artemis 1?
I think that Orbital Starship right now is going to fly before Artemis 1, but if you asked me this question a month ago, I would have said the reverse.
See, that's what's fascinating about this. This stuff changes so quickly. But yeah,
super heavy launch vehicles are difficult.
I've already
I know a lot. What's up?
I already locked in my answer last episode, so
you can change it. We're with new people.
Nope.
No one's gonna remember. No. I forgot what I said.
Everything is in flux, guys. That's the thing. Everything is in flux. These vehicles are tough. Rocket science factor, it scales. The difficulty scales exponentially with size. So if you build a rocket that's 100 meters tall, or building a rocket that's 200 meters tall is not going to be twice the difficult. I mean, a 200 meter tall rocket would be pretty sweet. It's not going to be twice the difficulty. It's going to be like 6 times the difficulty. So, everybody that's getting impatient with, Starship or SLS, they launch when they launch.
Yeah.
But at this time, I think that SpaceX is aiming for the summer, and I think that Artemis is probably. I mean, Artemis is midsummer too, but not by much. Like, I think SLS is looking for either end of July, very early parts of August, or late August would be the prime window for them. Because one thing that people got to understand is with SLS is that this is a test flight. There are only certain times when the moon is in the right spot. You probably don't want to miss that with your rocket that's designed to move stuff to the moon. You probably don't want to miss the moon. This is something the Apollo missions had to deal with. The moon has to be in the right place. And the reason why the moon has to be in the right place is because they need to time it so the capsule comes down when they get back. The capsule has to come down in a certain area. And here's the thing, and this is right from an SLS press conference that we listened to. We listened to all of them. The recovery conditions have to be favorable. The entire mission is hinged on that. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but you got to remember, you're coming. The Orion capsule is going to come back from the moon. That's a 250,000 mile fall. It's going to be hard to get that pinpoint, and there's really only so many places where it can come down. And you really want to make sure that where it comes down, that location, which is going to be a wide swath, that's going to be a big area because you can't be really precise falling from 250,000 miles away. It's like if you dropped a penny off the top of the Empire State Building and you wanted to hit like a quarter on the ground. Like, that's not going to work. You're going to need like a big bullseye that's the size of the street to get that area correct. So the recovery conditions it's a much larger area than it would be for something coming back from low Earth orbit. You have to make sure that the recovery conditions in that entire freaking gigantic area, that huge bullseye, of ocean, that has to be right. If it's too rough, you're not going to get a capsule back. So why even try the mission? So 1, the moon needs to be in the right place, and 2, the recovery conditions need to be favorable. The first time you go and recover one of these capsules, you really want to make sure that you don't recover it in a monsoon, because that won't give you a good idea about what it takes to recover the capsule. you need a good baseline. Ideally, you want to recover it in calm waters because that gives you a good baseline for how the capsule works, because the capsule's less likely to get damaged by the ocean, right?
Right.
Yep.
If you have a capsule that's flying around and it does everything well, and then during reentry something happens, and then it lands in a monsoon, right, in the ocean, right, and it's damaged, you want to know where that damage came from. You don't get, that's what I mean about not getting a good baseline. You want to be absolutely sure that the water didn't play any factors into messing up the capsule. Now, don't get me wrong, they should be able to tell the difference, but also it's pretty hard to recover it if you're getting like 15-foot swells. You don't want, that's not ideal. That could mess up the capsule. You don't want to do that, at least on the first try, Yeah,
you kind of can't narrow anything down if you land in super rough waters and it's tossing the spacecraft around. If you might miss something that you would have seen in calm waters because it didn't affect it as much. It's
exactly
just small things like that are crucial.
So because those are such a big deal for Artemis 1. Artemis 1 is very, very susceptible to being moved around. Like, even if the rocket is ready, they'll wait. And if it means waiting a month, they will. That's why I say, like, it's probably going to be August, because I don't know, man, you might have bad conditions in the Pacific. I think that's where they're going to recover it, if I'm remembering right. But see, like Starship, on the other hand, Starship, they just want that thing to get into space. And then if it comes back down, if it actually even bothers to land, like if it gets that far, then that's a bonus. Like, that's great.
Yeah, that's how they do things. There's about a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say there's a lot less kind of riding on it, so it's more. All right, it's ready. Okay, go.
Yeah, like SpaceX is talking about like how they go about testing their vehicles, and we've seen it before. Or Starship landing, that's a huge bonus, but they almost kind of expect it to blow up in the atmosphere at like a certain % chance that they're just aware of. If it comes back safe, they'll get to learn more. But yeah, if it blows up or not, I'm super stoked for that one. But it's a huge contrast to Artemis, where that's like, if that doesn't make it back, that's a huge deal. That's a huge hit to the entire program. Like, people won't trust it and what it's intended to do. Like, they need people to trust it, or else it's just not going to get the support it needs to fly. And we'll see SpaceX going to do the same things probably.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be sure though, like what type of failure it is and why it happens, et cetera, et cetera. That it really, like, honestly, you want the capsule to come back in one piece, but there are unknown unknowns. That does happen. You never know. The more important thing is to understanding what happened and understanding the severity or lack thereof of what went wrong. Like, if it did, that's the part. It's like the factor of failure, as opposed to just, oh, this failed, this didn't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, did this fail catastrophically? Did we get something? Did we get a capsule back? Is the inside on fire? Like, like, obviously, I would never want that. Like, what, like, it's the severity of it. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, capsule on fire is just one thing that just popped into my head. There's like 1,000 things that can go wrong, but the way NASA engineers their stuff is that they rigorously test it on the ground to make sure that doesn't happen. But you still have unknown unknowns. That happens. There's you got to be ready for it. So, like, yeah, I know. Yeah, people got to trust the Orion capsule, but like, what I'm saying is that something might go wrong. It might. And that problem, like spaceflight is just like that. Spaceflight is just like that. You could do everything right and still have a mission fail because something that couldn't have possibly been taken into account. It happens, and it sucks when it does. But I think NASA should be, if that kind of stuff does happen, they should be upfront about it, and they should be like, look, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, this is something that we really couldn't prevent, et cetera, and kind of go from there. I mean, because, I get it. They need to get the support, but I think people also need to understand that stuff does happen, because it eventually will. Something is going to happen, and like, God forbid, I'm not wishing death on anybody. No way.
No.
Like, you're going to deal with problems. This happens in spaceflight all the time. So I actually would want something to go wonky with Artemis 1 so it doesn't go wonky on Artemis 2 when we put people on that thing.
Right.
You want to find the bugs. Artemis 1 is a final exam. It's like a beta test for the rocket. You want to make sure that everything goes right. But also, if something goes wrong, that means something won't go wrong when you go to bring it into not alpha, when you go to bring it into release, right? To speak in gaming terms, right? Because we're talking about Kerbal. Like,
yeah.
You want to find the bugs during Artemis 1. You really do. That's really important.
Absolutely. Mark, so do we know anything about where JWST plans on pointing? No, we don't yet.
They just said that we'll find out when they take pictures, basically.
Well, all right. I guess it'll be a mystery. This coming July, August, I think it's going to be really exciting. Maybe not in the terms of new KSP2 information, although we never know what we're going to find, but more in the terms of real space flight, because all of this is sort of happening around the same few months here, and I'm just looking forward to all of it.
Love it.
We're
Absolutely.
Definitely going to have to wait probably till Gamescom, August, September, for potentially any new spicy, juicy KSP2 info. At least in my opinion, that's how that seems like that's going to be handled.
If they present at any sort of games convention, which I know for a fact they're not going to be at PAX East, I'm pretty sure they don't plan on being at PAX West. I believe they are not going to be part of E3 because I think E3 isn't even happening this year. But truthfully, I don't even think that KSP2. I know nothing about game marketing, but it seems like with something with the scope of KSP2, they might not even need like a games convention to like spread the word enough. I think
I just mean around that time.
Yeah, around that time. I think it might be. Like I said previously, I think towards the end of the year, we're going to start to see more. Guaranteed towards the end of the year, we will already have known more. They seem to upload different sort of blogs and show and tell videos and whatnot on their YouTube channel and stuff. Like every few months or so, we get some really, really juicy content. And I love just seeing new things, but more I just love to see like that they're enjoying the process of making this game, and I just appreciate it and looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, me too, man.
Oh yeah.
But we have to play with what we've got, which isn't too bad.
Like I said, I'm sweating. I have stuff to do.
Yep.
And we try and keep it a little bit interesting for the listeners of the podcast with a couple of little challenges.
Yeah. Speaking of, I think we're gonna skip the weird and wacky for this episode.
Yeah.
Maybe come up with something a little more juicier next one. But about the Kerbal Space Challenge, you had a new challenge, I believe. I think it's time that we showcase a new one because we had a first one in episode 1.
EJ is a wonderful guest, and I figured that we have something based around him, so I figured it might be a cool little challenge to make a basic crew elevator for a rocket. Just a little video of the platform going up and reaching the capsule, and Kerbal's getting in, and I mean, bonus points if you can like stack a full rocket, but we don't expect that. That'll just be EJ would know. He's done it. I've watched.
A hard thing to do.
Yeah. Absolutely fascinating to watch, though.
But yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's great.
From the past challenge, it was simply, we're starting this new venture on this podcast. We're completely new to making any sort of podcast, really. I mean, I stream all the time, but still, regardless, it's nothing like this. We get to We get to talk about things. We get to share our hype. We get to meet new people and talk to people that you guys know. It's fantastic. So the challenge was to also do something new. Go somewhere new. Go somewhere that you haven't been before. I proposed like, hey, if you've never been to Jewel and you've only been to like Kerbin and the Mon, go to Jewel. And it was really nice to see like a few of you on the Discord actually make your first ventures out to Jewel. Some with a complicated system, some just like for the first time, and seeing that's, you know, they seemed excited that you were going to go back. So thank you all for showing that on the Discord. Again, Kerbal Space Discord, we have channel 4 challenges. If this is the YouTube video that you're listening to this on, there'll be a link below. Otherwise, I think if you find our forum post on Kerbal or whatnot, you'll be able to find it there. But feel free to share your challenges there. And this one, like Mark said, is a crew elevator. Like, start on the ground, make some sort of robotic thing, absolutely crazy thing actually work of, you know, shifting a Kerbal up there. We've seen it done before, but it's a challenging thing to do. If you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that could work. But then like once you start building it, it's just like, okay, well, this doesn't work. How do I finagle this? It'll be a fun little I think I might do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like elevators is not easy in the game that doesn't have the parts for that. I mean, I could see maybe just like a piston extend all the way down and up, but like at the same time, I couldn't stop thinking that like that's not how an elevator does it. Kind of.
No, an elevator is a pulley.
Pulleys.
Yeah. Yeah, it has weights on the sides, and weights are attached to a rope, and that's attached to a wheel up at the top, and the rope goes through the wheel and it attaches to the top of the elevator, and all an elevator is just a motor that's attached to that pulley that moves the weight back and forth. That's why elevators have weight limits, because you can't exceed the counterweight.
Yeah, but just fall then. Well,
it would do bad things to the motor, and then it would fall.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the challenge. Have a simple rocket and have a launch pad with an elevator type mechanism that, you know, kills your frames more than a rocket ever would. I guess that's that's the gist of it there. But I think we're going to be wrapping up this episode of the Kerbal Space Podcast. Next episode, we'll be talking about near future propulsion with Beardy Penguin. I think we'll be airing that around June 20th-ish, unless there's like some delays, which life happens. We might have some for whatever reason. But yeah, that's going to be all from this one. Looks like Mark's internet may have disconnected. However, right at the tail end, it should be all right. All right, we don't know how to do intros here, so there's music. I appreciate you guys listening to this one. Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation, EJ. It was a blast.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
All right, well, farewell, everyone. Have a good one.
See ya.